So at ArabCon, there was a tense discussion between one of the pro-Palestinian activists in the audience and one of the more vocal members of the Uncommitted movement, Representative Ruwa. So as Ruwa for Georgia, she is the young woman that was not allowed to present her speech on the DNC stage, even though they allowed the Israeli family to give their speech. Her speech was already vetted, and she was kind of like begging them, please let me speak. She had already endorsed Kamala Harris. So these are the people that are part of the Uncommitted movement that kind of like sold out other members of the movement that I have spoken to that said they don't support what they're doing. One of them, Abbas, is a DNC delegate. Then you have Ruwa, who is a representative in the Georgia State House, also Democrat, you know, and then you also have Layla, who is Rashida Tlaib's sister. So it's obvious to me, and I called it back then, that this Uncommitted movement was suspect to me, because I said, why would you just be uncommitted just through the primary? That's telling me that you still plan to support the Democratic Party, right? So apparently it's very apparent as well to some of the members of the Arab community, and this came out during the Arab convention. Shout out to Rania Kalik for sharing this tense exchange between Rania Masri and Ruwa for Georgia about Jill Stein at the Arab convention. Watch the entire exchange. Honey, get ready for this one. Guys, get some popcorn or something, because this is fire.
My name is Rania Masri from the swing state of North Carolina. Ruwa, you were asked a very specific question, and you marvelously evaded the answer by talking about state and not the president.
No, I didn't.
You said that you are still waiting for a response from Kamala Harris. I think her statements in the debate and the platform were very clear that she will continue to support the genocide.
Yep.
And she will continue to propagate Zionist lies. But it's not only that you are continuing to defend a genocider, you are doing worse on Twitter. Because here you have said that we are being pushed to a binary choice. You are pushing us to a binary choice because on social media, you have been attacking the choice that we have, which is presidential candidate Jill Stein. You have called our presidential candidate vile by rejecting genocide. You have called her not strategic because she dares to campaign in swing states. My question to you is, when our people in Palestine are refusing to raise the white flag of surrender, when our people in Palestine are refusing to accept crumbs, why are you? And if you want to hold on to the genocider, please at least do not attack those of us who refuse to bow down to the Democratic presidential candidate and rather want to be a dignified choice.
So that was fire, right? That was fire. And she is speaking to Ruwa, who's sitting right here. And Ruwa, again, is a representative in the Georgia State House.
First and foremost, as I just stated in my comments, there was an endorsement that was offered, but it was not given, right? There was a negotiation that was happening. And if you go look on anything I've written, particularly after the DNC, it has been very clear. And as Representative Abdel Nasser said, what we have are specific metrics. If they provide these metrics, we will give our endorsement. It's really not a difficult conversation. For me personally, literally the first thing I did when I went to Georgia is I said, this is unacceptable. All of these plans and commitments that we had are no longer on the table because you did not hold your end of the bargain. Again, a commitment to ending the genocide. Now, as it relates to Jill Stein specifically, my biggest concern is that when you call, for example, a representative who has identified what's happening as a genocide, a pro-genocide candidate. So hold on. So, right. But my point is, what happens is, right. But she is a presidential candidate. I want to be clear, like this presidential candidate also had come after me before. And I hadn't said anything up until that point. I have tried really hard to walk this fine line. But my concern is that I really do care about making sure that if anybody wants to talk about this issue and say they are on our side, because again, if you say you're on our side, to your point, you're 100% correct. There should be a much higher standard and a much higher bar.
So let me just go ahead and jump in here for a second. First of all, Rua decided to insert herself in a conversation. This was after AOC attacked Jill Stein the second time, more recently after the Breakfast Club interview. And she decided to insert herself in that conversation and attack Jill Stein. Nobody was talking to Rua. Nobody had tagged her from what I saw in those posts. She pretty much was there to back up her party. And this is what I said before about you can have a correct position, but if your party is controlled by an entity that is working against that correct position, oftentimes, if you want to stay in the party and you want to continue to have a political career, you're going to back the party and do what the party wants you to do. The very damning thing that I noticed that came from Rua in that Twitter post was when she said that if you would have been on the ballot in the safe states, I wouldn't be coming at you. That right there, again, lets you know that the uncommitted movement, those particular leaders were not serious about being uncommitted. They always plan to support the Democratic Party in the end. Rua endorsed Kamala Harris when she was at the DNC convention. She had already given endorsement to Kamala Harris. So this is even after Kamala told you that she was not going to, she said she's not going to condition any weapons to Israel. This woman, I don't know how many times Kamala needs to say this, and I'll show you again. I don't know how many times she needs to say it for it to get through to Rua. But see, Rua, I think, has bigger aspirations. I think that Rua, being in the Georgia State House, is probably thinking about her career down the line, may want to run for Congress at some point. Get herself in that DC bubble and go on from there. Oftentimes, it's not uncommon for people to start in their state house and then work their way to Congress. And I think that's why she's taking the position that she's taking. I also wouldn't be surprised if some of these people have been offered some things. We don't know. We don't know if Rua has not been offered something. That's what I'm saying. Let me let her continue. What a mess.
That is my belief. If you say you're on our side, your bar has to be higher. And if you tell somebody, for example, oh, this person who is not pro-genocide is pro-genocide, what it does is it actually reduces our coalition. And it reduces the number of people on our side. I know it's not fair, but I want to be very honest.
AOC Pelosi has continued to endorse Kamala Harris and refused to sign the ceasefire resolution.
So the woman in the audience said AOC Pelosi is backing Kamala Harris and they refuse to sign a ceasefire resolution.
So to be clear,
so she told her if that's not being pro-genocide, then what is?
To be clear, we've had multiple members of Congress who signed the resolution, including those who allied with us, also endorse her. I'm not here to litigate like one member or another. My big focus has been mis and disinformation and how it plays into moments like this. I don't want our
There goes the Democratic Party talking points, the mis and disinformation. So do you guys see she's a part of the system? This is what I wanted to point out. Now, all of a sudden, what the woman said in the audience, now all of a sudden is mis and disinformation. Why? Because she's calling you out, because she's telling the truth. This woman is going to back her party. Now, I didn't watch this woman go on multiple shows crying and saying they wouldn't let me speak, which I thought was ridiculous. If you're going to let one side speak, you let the other side speak. I thought that was flat out discrimination. And this woman is still out here carrying water for the Democratic Party. Ladies and gentlemen, Rashida Tlaib hasn't even endorsed Kamala Harris. So what does that tell you? There is the uncommitted movement that has gotten a lot of attention from corporate media. And then there is the abandoned Harris movement, which is not really getting much attention from corporate media. And the reason why abandoned Harris isn't getting as much attention is because they have made it very clear they are not supporting Kamala Harris. If you look on their website, it said their goal is to make Kamala lose because they have killed their people. That's why you don't see abandoned Harris on corporate media. Because there is no let's sit down and make a negotiation with them. So what you have here, and everybody got one, every group has one. What you have here is somebody that has decided to use the uncommitted movement to serve their self. And that's what she is doing.
Our community feel like everybody is an enemy and everyone sucks and everyone is the same. Because what worries me about that is then if you think everyone sucks and everybody is the same, then you're like, there's no point in engaging. And I've heard this at the doors. When we went canvassing, people said, everybody is terrible. What's the point of doing this? And I think we have a responsibility, but I think we have a responsibility to be clear. I want to be clear, only because I don't want us to fall into nihilism. I don't want us to give up the power that we have because this is a disinformation campaign aimed at us. It is saying nobody is standing with us. And the problem is when you have candidates like us down ballot and we go knock on someone's door and they say, you know, everyone's the same, everybody sucks, nothing matters. That's what it plays into. And that's my only concern. That's
okay, I'm going to get back to.
So did everybody notice what she said there about the down ballot candidates not doing well? So that was a revealing moment there. Again, it's the party, right? People blame the party, of course, for the genocide. These are things that we have to talk about. And I can show you here from Abandon Harris. I want to show you the difference. Abandon Harris shared this video. Omar Solomon, and I've seen him on other shows, highlights an important point regarding the choice Muslim Americans face in the 2024 election. Listen to this. I want you to see the difference.
Perhaps, dear brothers and sisters, our American Muslim calculations, our politics over the last 2 decades have become a little bit too much about securing the interests of American Muslims only, maybe even to the detriment of Islam and the Muslim world and humanity. Maybe it's become too much about us securing our cutout here. You listen to the rhetoric about this election, and no, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for from the minbar. Use your own sense and your own fitrah and your own moral conscience. But you listen to the calculations and the rhetoric, and you think about what that means and what is embedded in what we are saying. Maybe it's become too much about making sure that my kids can live at home in safety, my kids can go to school in safety, which I want so badly. I want that. But I don't just want it for them. But maybe our political calculus has become shifted, and maybe it's a little bit of a humble pie for us to say, maybe you shouldn't be thinking too much about this, and you should be thinking a little bit broader. Because when we talk about American exceptionalism, which has shown itself in America's foreign policy to the detriment of the rest of the world, maybe there's American Muslim exceptionalism as well, where we've only been thinking about ourselves as an American Muslim community, and perhaps we need to broaden that framework to think about more than ourselves.
I think that is spot on. And you can say that for other groups as well, right? Not just Muslim Americans. And it seems like to me, that's exactly what people like Ruwa are doing. Thinking about their self. Speaking of that, you'll see this here as well. Also, during the National Association of Black Journalists interview with Kamala Harris, they did ask her about Gaza, and I want you to see what she said.
What levers does the U.S. have to support Palestinians in their right to self-determination? And is it even possible as Israel's ally?
Well, absolutely. I will tell you, I have been actively involved in, for example, meeting not only with Israeli officials, but with Arab officials to talk about how we can construct a day after scenario where we participate in ensuring those exact goals that I outlined, including as part of the principles that should be applied to those goals, that there be no reoccupation of Gaza.
Let me pause. So first of all, Kamala Harris, I noticed, struggles to answer questions directly on interviews. So let me go ahead and tell you what the woman was asking her. What leverage do we have to ensure that the Palestinian people are going to have some type of security, right? That this is going to be better for Palestinian people. The leverage, one of the biggest leverages that we have is our arms, our weapons. That's the big leverage. So in order to stop the killing, Kamala needs to say, I'm not going to give arms to Israel. That's the answer, the quick, short answer. But she can't do that because she is going to give arms and weapons to Israel. Does everybody see now she's trying to do a word salad because she's not answering what the leverage is? That is the leverage. We hold the weapons.
That there be no changing of the territorial lines in Gaza, that there be an ability to have security in the region for all concerned in a way that we create stability, and let us also recognize in a way that ensures that Iran is not empowered in this whole scenario in terms of the peace and stability of the region. But absolutely, the United States of America absolutely has a role, which is why we have been active, in particular with the Qataris and the Egyptians, around attempting to get a deal done and get it done as quickly as possible.
Let me just pause there for a second, right? So all of those things that she laid out for the Palestinian people, none of those things are going to be possible as long as you keep giving Israel weapons. If you keep giving Israel weapons, they will continue to kill Palestinian people. And Kamala Harris knows this. You see what I mean? You can have this great list of, oh, I want a two-state solution. I want them to be able to do this. The borders cannot be redrawn and they cannot go back in and occupy Gaza. You can say all of those things. But if you're still giving Israel weapons, none of those things are going to happen. Guys, we're in trouble. Kamala Harris is not ready for this. I'm just keeping it real. And don't nobody come and say, oh, Sabby, you're just being harsh on her. She's not ready for this. With foreign policy, she's not ready for this. This is not a good look.
Just to follow up really quickly, is there a specific policy change that you as president of the United States would say you would do that would help this along? Because you've gotten a lot of credit for emphasizing the humanity of Palestinians. But what I often hear from folks is that there's no policy change that either you or President Biden have gone and said they would do. Is there a specific policy change as president that you would do in our helping of Israel?
We need to.
The question is there a policy change that you would implement to make things better for Palestinians? That's it. That's it. Listen.
Get this deal done. And we need to get it done immediately. And that is my position. And that is my policy. We need to get this deal done.
But in the way that we send weapons, in the way that we interact as their ally, are there specific policy changes?
Well,
again, you see how he has to follow up? Are there specific policy changes with the weapons, etc.? Because saying we need to get this deal done, that's not a policy change. We've been hearing that from you and Joe Biden all this time. So that's why he has to ask the question again. Listen.
For example, one of the things that we have done that I am entirely supportive of is the pause that we've put on the 2,000-pound bombs. And so there is some leverage that we have had and used.
That is not a policy change. That happened. Biden is still the president. So that's not a policy change. That has happened under Joe Biden's presidency. She does look scared, Professor Nietzsche.
But ultimately, the thing that is going to unlock everything else in that region is getting this deal done. And I'm not going to disclose private conversations, but I will tell you, I've had direct conversations with the Prime Minister, with the President of Israel, with Egyptian leaders, and with our allies. And I think we've made ourselves very clear this deal needs to get done in the best interest of everyone in the region, including getting those hostages out who, we saw the latest example of what happened with the six most recently, one of whom was an American citizen.
But what do you say to those?
This is not good. This is not a good look. And you have Representative Ruwer there, who's in the Georgia State House. You have her sitting up there saying, I haven't heard back from Kamala Harris yet. And that's why the audience member said, what are you talking about? Kamala Harris has made it very clear what she is going to do. So as you are listening to this right now, Kamala Harris is letting you know that when it comes to Israel in particular, she has no policy change in mind. So you let me know once again how she is going to be different on Israel than Joe Biden, because Joe Biden also called for a two-state solution. So did Obama. So did Barack Obama when he was president. This isn't new.
Let's say that's not enough, that stopping the 2,000-pound bombs the one time wasn't enough, that this administration, your possible administration, has to do more.
Well, we are doing the work of putting the pressure on all parties involved to get the.
Why do you wouldn't have to put any pressure if you stop sending the weapons? Okay. You know, we are doing the work, putting on the pressure. That you wouldn't have to put any pressure if you stop sending the weapons.
Deal done. But let me be very clear also.
Here we go.
I support Israel's ability to defend itself.
See?
And I support the need for Palestinians to have dignity, self-determination, and security.
It's a script. Notice every time she has to add that in, it's a script. This woman does not have a plan. She doesn't have a plan. Getting the deal done, that was Biden was saying that before she was. Before she was. She doesn't have a plan, guys. Is anyone not concerned about this?
As we move forward and get a two-state deal done, but right now the thing we need to get done is this hostage deal and the ceasefire deal. We need a ceasefire. We need the hostage deal.
And this says nothing about the West Bank. This says nothing about Israel seizing people's homes, taking the homes, the land seizure in the West Bank. There's no plan. The reason why you haven't heard back from Kamala Harris, Representative Rua, is because Kamala Harris don't have no damn plan. Why can't everyone see this? We are in trouble. I'm just saying, we're in trouble. This is very scary. No policy changes at all when it comes to Israel for Kamala Harris. No policy changes, no plan. She doesn't know what to do. She's just repeating a script. That's it. What did I tell you? I told you she would not be different. Why do you think they selected her? This election is going to be something else.